This is FLOSS Weekly. I'm Doc Searls. This week, Katherine Druckman and I talked to Roman Tsisyk about organic maps. This overflows into lots of other mapping topics. Openstreetmap, open mapping in general. Open source is a very, very active community involved with organic maps. Offline mapping and using maps offline where you're not being tracked, the whole privacy aspect of it, that's all on the docket and is coming up next.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is FLOSS Weekly, episode 734, recorded Wednesday, May 31st, 2023. Organic maps. Hello again, everyone, everywhere. I am Doc Searls. This is FLOSS Weekly, and I'm joined this week by Katherine Druckman herself from Houston, Texas.
It is. Yes, all of those things are true, especially the last part.
You're not always Katherine Druckman, but you are always from Houston.
Yes, yes,
or
exactly.
in Houston, if not from Houston. So have you checked into Roman, our guest is Roman Tsisyk or organic maps?
Well, yeah, I was intrigued when I saw it come across the topic list, the email thread, right? Because as anybody who's listened to the two of us speak, we're privacy enthusiasts. So I do like the idea of talking about any kind of mapping app that doesn't phone home with one's location. So yeah, I think I'm interested in this conversation. Should be good.
Yeah, and in my case, I wanted to phone home, but to my own server, to my own
yeah, exactly.
place.
Phone home
I'd like to know where I've been, but even the phone company would tell me that. I mean, it's kind of crazy. And on top of that, I love having offline maps. I like just being able to go to places where there is no data coverage and look around. So I want to hurry up and get into the show so we can talk as much as we can. Our guest today is Roman Tsisyk, and I am completely unprepared with personal information about you, Roman. What I know so far is that you're in Turkey and you're from Siberia or Western Siberia. So maybe you can tell us. Yeah, we generally don't. We avoid politics here, but geography isn't political. So tell us a little bit about where you're from and then about what about you, the little biography and what got you going on organic maps.
Yeah, sure. First of all, it's my pleasure to be here. And thank you for this short introduction. So I was born in Siberia. This is not a blank spot like most people think. This is more like south of Canada. Weather is not such bad and very developed area. You have universities, you have schools, you have cities with million people population. So it was a long time ago. Currently, I stay in Turkey. It's evening time now. So in general, I have about 2 decades of software engineering experience. And during my career, starting from day one, probably from my high school time, I have been working with open source. I use open source. I contribute to open source. I created a couple of open source projects, including organic maps. Previously, I worked on Taranto project. This is in-memory database, distributed in-memory database, very fast. You can perform 1 million requests per second. So all my software engineering career is about open source. I work with open source all the time, and I never regret it.
So tell us just a little bit quick about the database and what it was called again.
Taranto. Taranto.io. Yeah, Taranto.io. It's like a Redis, so it's memory database, but you can also run procedures. You have a language, general purpose programming language, like JavaScript, and you can write procedures which are executed close to your data. So you have an in-memory database, but data is persistent. So it sounds magical. So data in memory, but persistent at the same time. So you can get a really high performance. but at the same time, your data is safe. So it's 100% open source product. We have a lot of users all around the world. It's all about low-level system programming because databases are a really complex topic, how to make things optimize, how to store data, and things like that. So organic maps is similar in some sense because you do database in your phone. So you don't have a powerful server. You have really tiny mobile device and you need to store data. You need to store map data, street information. So you do all such operations Google Maps does on the server, but you do them on your mobile phone.
So I'm looking for Toronto, and how is this spelled exactly? Because I'm getting wrong results. And you can put it in the chat if you feel like it, and then we'll move along because it sounds
Tarentool.io, or you can check GitHub Tarentool. I typed in chat. Please check it out.
Okay, I'm not seeing it, but we'll let that go or chop it out. Chalk our pause out later because it sounds like a big deal. So tell us how you got going on organic maps, and I'm especially interested in how it differs from there are a lot of map apps out there. So what does it get? What niche does this fall into, and how is it different?
Yeah, let's talk about organic maps. So I'm co-founder and one of primary contributors on the project, and I can cover all details you want. First of all, what is organic maps? So organic maps is a free and open source mobile maps and navigation app for Android and iOS. So you can find it on Google Play, F-Droid, Apple Store, and other sources. So organic maps provides fast, detailed offline maps of the entire world based on OpenStreetMap data. So you can find all basic map features you can expect from other apps. So you can browse the map, you can save places you want to visit, you can create custom layers, you can add some comments, you can plan your trip, you can import tracks, you can import layers. We also have voice-assisted navigation for cars, for cycling, hiking, walking. Basically, all essential features of contemporary map application, like in Google Maps or Apple Maps, but offline. So answering your question, what makes organic maps special? First of all, organic maps is offline maps app. So a lot of applications on the market can cache data now. So you can, when you browse the map, it saves some parts, some regions in a cache, and you can use application partially offline. Organic maps is 100% offline. All features I mentioned, they work completely offline without internet connection. So practically, how does it work? First of all, you download the map of your area or region you plan to visit. You do this operation one time. So you at home, you have good internet connection, you download map into your device. And after that, for example, if you are going into big long trip into Europe, you can just click, download all countries you plan to visit. And after that, you can completely disconnect from the internet. Throw away your SIM card, get on a plane, and enjoy your trip. So organic maps will work super reliable without any need for downloading data, and you can plan your trip. You can use navigation, voice-assisted navigation. You have all details in your phone, and no bytes sent or received to or from the internet. This is the core idea of offline maps. Does it make sense?
Oh, it makes. Yeah, go ahead, Catherine.
Yeah, no, I was just so when you I have a couple of questions, and one is you said offline maps, and I wondered why you prioritized that. I have my own thoughts about why, but I wonder why you did. But also, I'm looking at your GitHub page and I see it says it's crowdsourced OpenStreetMap data and is developed with love by Maps Me founders. And I wondered if you could talk about the connection to those two things.
Okay, good questions. Let's start with the first question. So this is a reasonable question. Why does offline matters? So 5G or 4G is everywhere, right? So why do you need offline? Good question. What do you think? Why do you need offline?
Well, I would think, for a lot of reasons, especially if you're, an outdoors type person, your coverage is frequently terrible, right? And also you want to account for people with older phones that don't have, the speed and that kind of thing. So there are a lot of reasons I can think of, but the biggest is just connectivity and consistency there. If you're traveling, even if you have the latest, greatest phone and you're used to a really fantastic connection, if you're traveling somewhere who doesn't, or you just don't want to pay for the international data plan.
Yeah, roaming. Yeah. Okay. You covered the first reason. This reason is obvious. So when you travel, especially abroad, you will not always have internet connection. Data roaming not always works. You can have some problems. Did you know that when you travel to some other country, your operator route your packets via your home country? For example, if you are in Thailand and you want to search for some local website, some hotel or bar, your data will go to United States and back. So the limitation of speed of light. So this latency, it affects download speeds. It's always slow. When you use roaming, it's always slow. It's always expensive, and it's better to have something downloaded in advance, because you can use WhatsApp, you can send messages, but this is not about getting a lot of data when you travel. But this is the obvious reason. Let's talk about more complicated story, more important considerations. And more important consideration on modern devices is battery drain. How often do you charge your phone per day?
That's an excellent point. Once. Mine's pretty new, but I've had phones in the past that, early iPhones. Remember the early iPhones where you were like carrying around your charger and looking for a bathroom to charge your phone? Yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah, this is a popular story about Android phones, but you can always find them somewhere near the charger. But this is the case for iPhone as well, so this is not an exception. So mobile users are always on the hunt for a charger, and iPhone is not an exception here. So the problem with battery and problem with 5G and LTE 4G connections, but they are major drainers of your battery. Every byte sent or received through modern 4G, 5G connections eats up a small percentage of your smartphone battery. You can make an experiment. Start some streaming app, for example, for listening to this podcast or YouTube, and you can see how battery is draining, like 90%, 89%, 88%, 87%. Every minute, this countdown timer is ticking because data drains the battery, especially when
you have a weak signal. Yeah, and if you have a bad signal, it's just constantly trying to, and it'll drain your battery like that. Yeah, absolutely.
If you want to drain, go ahead. Sorry. I was thinking, if you want to drain the battery on your phone really fast, try flying across the country without turning the cell coverage off.
Yeah, exactly. If you forgot to disable data in the plane, your phone will discharge very quickly, because you don't have signal, it will constantly search for a signal. And even if you find something, which I don't believe is possible, it will discharge your phone very quickly.
Yeah, it's I've noticed, and you arrive at your destination and your phone has 2% of the battery and it's hot.
Yeah. So this is why you need offline, because you can turn off mobile data and you don't need to worry. So regarding Maps applications, so if you use any online Maps applications, you use data to download some fragments, some parts, regions of the map data. This is one point. And second point, in most phones, especially Android phones, you have so-called high precise location or high accurate location or Google improved location, Apple improved location. So this is when you use some internet services to get better location data. And this technology, it works in a way that your mobile phone needs to send information about Wi-Fi around, about your cell stations around. So it does it very often, a couple times per minute. And it also discharges your phone very quickly. So if you use GPS, it consumes a battery, but GPS is passive. So you turn on GPS and you wait for signals from satellite. But this so-called assisted GPS or high accurate location, it's active. You need to send data to the internet all the time. So you can make this experiment. Try to disable mobile data, and you can use your smartphone, even old one, for a couple of weeks probably. Maybe 1 week. Every phone will stay 1 week. Every modern phone will stay for 1 week if you disable data and if you don't use screen very often. So data and screen are two primary users of battery.
So I'd like to ask about the connections and the symbiosis, as it were, between Openstreetmaps and organic maps, because I remember I'm a map freak, and so I was so enthused about Openstreetmaps when it first came out, and I contributed to it. And I quickly had my gears stripped because I realized the whole world was contributing to it, or many, many other geeks are contributing to it. And now it seems so complete in a lot of ways. I mean, I look at where I live on organic maps, where I am here in California, and it has the shape of my house, which is it's remarkably precise. And when I look at the trails, there are mountains behind me here, and I'm too old to continue hiking the way I used to, but I could go up these routes up the side of the hill. And I suppose you could move out of cell coverage in some of those places, but I'm wondering, I mean, about the connection between, because I noticed that with organic maps, I can contribute, I could share my location. Does that go to Openstreetmaps in some way? How does that work?
Yeah, okay, let's talk about the connection. So your location doesn't go to any service. So this is privacy-focused maps. Mm-hmm. We don't share your location. So what is OpenStreetMap, first of all? So the example I usually provide, so OpenStreetMap is like a Wikipedia for maps. So you can contribute, you can draw your house, you can add streets you have in your neighborhood. So this is a shared database where millions of people contribute. So organic maps and any other maps applications, they don't create maps on their own. We use OpenStreetMap as a database. So OpenStreetMap is a database of maps data, and organic maps is a client. And organic maps is not only one client. We have a lot of applications on the market. So when you contribute to OpenStreetMap, all applications that use OpenStreetMap gets new data. And this is a significant difference from Google Maps. When you contribute to Google Maps, Google gets your data and your contribution, and nobody else. In OpenStreetMap, if you add some points of interest in organic maps, like some shops, markets, you will get this data in other applications. Maybe not immediately, sometime later, 1 month later, 2 weeks later, but you will get it. So this is shared database maintained by community. So I can tell you that organic OpenStreetMaps made significant progress in the last 10 years. And I remember that 10 years ago, I went into 2 weeks long trip into Nepal, into mountains. And entire area around Annapurna, one of the biggest mountains there, it was just a blank spot in OpenStreetMap, nothing. Mm-hmm. But now, as you already mentioned, you can find your house, you have streets, you have a lot of information, and OpenStreetMap improved significantly in many countries, and the United States is not an exception. For example, India improved significantly. Europe is already good quality in most countries. So this is community efforts to make the database of entire world with all data. And when you contribute, you get it in all applications.
So I understand it. When you went to Annapurna, did you help contribute to that blank space? Was that in your mind when you were there? Like, I can help fill this in?
I remember that in Annapurna, I actually used paper maps, and it was the last time I used paper maps because it was most reliable source of information. The problem with paper maps, you get your paper map and you stare at paper map. You have this mountain and that mountain. After that, you flip it down and you have completely different picture. And it's really hard to understand where you are, especially in mountains, because landscapes are similar. It's really hard. You don't have GPS in the paper map. So my point was that a lot of people joined OpenStreetMap directly or not directly. For example, Microsoft contributes to OpenStreetMap. So when you draw some objects in bin maps, they contribute data to OpenStreetMap. They actually provided satellite images to OpenStreetMap community to map entire world. So corporations contribute. I am aware about some efforts, joint efforts from big tech corporations like Facebook, Microsoft, and other big guys. Joined their efforts to create Google Maps alternative in terms of data, because application client, this is a one story. Good quality of maps, this is the other story. It's not possible to map entire world without help of enthusiasts. So OpenStreetMap, you can see a lot of details. You can see some small roads, walking paths. You can see shops. You can see houses, because OpenStreetMap is created by people, so people contribute. In Google Maps, it's mostly created by AI technology. So they get satellite images and they recognize satellite images automatically by using some smart neural network, and they create some houses, streets, but you always know better. You as a local guy, you know your area better. And this is why in OpenStreetMap, you can find a lot of details. And this is why OpenStreetMap is good for hiking, good for walking, for tree planning. You have details on the map.
So several things jump into my mind. One is, excuse me. When is overlays and 3D views and stuff like that you get, and are there things in your roadmap for organic maps that are, for example, like I'm in a mountainous area here, so if I was hiking, it'd be kind of interesting to have a look up the mountain from the side. Is that in the works at all? I mean, I see the contours, for elevation. 500 meters, 800 meters, that kind of thing. But is there any effort going toward a 3D view or breaking out, for example, a cycling map, a transport map, different overlays of various kinds? And maybe you already have those and I've missed them. So I don't know.
This is a good question. So yes, we have contour lines, we have elevation profiles, but we don't have good 3D visualization of peaks and slopes in mountains. This is one of areas where application can be improved. So we have some information in OpenStreetMap. We have some objects, we have some trails, we have altitude information for trails, but visualization, this is different topic, how to get good 3D visualization. This item is in our roadmap. We haven't started yet working on it, but this is a good thing to consider for the future, especially for hiking in mountains. You want to see this 3D visualization of mountains.
Yeah. I'm also wondering, with Google and with Microsoft's product, but it's whatever it's called this week, is they have satellite views, right? And are there any open source satellite view sources, or is all that stuff proprietary and behind walls of one kind or another? I really don't know. I'm just curious.
The latter. So almost all satellite data is proprietary. You can get some free license or cheap license for some parts of the world. Quality can differ. For example, Microsoft shared satellite images from Bing Maps to Openstreetmap community, but it doesn't mean that you can use it in your application. So you can use it for mapping, but if you want to use in your application, you need a license probably. And this is a really hard topic because maps data you can create, you can update OpenStreetMap. Satellite images, you probably need to buy some license from somebody who has tiles, pictures, and other information.
Or get a plane.
Yeah.
Take some pictures.
Well, that's part of it. Go ahead, Catherine.
Sorry,
yeah.
Oh, I was just wondering. So I'm kind of wandering off that topic a little bit, but I'm looking at your GitHub repo, and it looks. I don't want to say I'm surprised by how much activity, but there's a lot of activity.
Yeah.
I wondered how.
You're right.
Often we're talking to people, and there's there's a lot of blank spots, and yours is
Yeah, I see.
Very solid.
101 active pull requests. It looks like they're going through them pretty quickly. You're
check the number of issues. We have
1,600 issues.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you're getting through them. And so I wondered how long did it take to get this kind of critical mass in your community?
The short story. So this organic maps project, it's 2.5 years old, but I need to talk about the entire history of the project because you already mentioned that organic maps is a fork of Maps.me. Let's talk about this history. So there was an application called Maps with Me, created by a few guys in Belarus almost 10 years ago. It was a really small team. They created a nice, clean application. It was bought by a big tech corporation, and they started, this advertisement business. They started to introduce ads. They started to introduce tracking, some paid features, a lot of stuff. They contributed a lot of good features, but they also added a lot of annoying features, features people didn't like. The good part of the story, but the code base, it was open source for some reason, for marketing purpose. So development was mostly behind closed doors, but we published open source code just to demonstrate, okay, see, we have an open source project, we contribute to open source, we not really bad big tech, we contribute to open source, we are good guys. Maybe some marketing purposes. So we published open source code. And it was really nice. It still is a nice application called Maps.me. But what happened one day, they decided that this business is not profitable now. And they sold the application to some other company. Not really well-known company, some group of people you probably don't know. And with people, I would say, they from cryptocurrency community, and they started pivoting into cryptocurrency stories. So I can speculate, but I think that their goal was to get user base. So they bought the application. You have huge user base, millions of people, and they started to introduce some cryptocurrency wallets, some credit cards and other finance services into the application. But maps applications were not developed for 3 or maybe 4 years actively. So initially they wanted to completely replace the app, like keep the name, but replaced by a different app, completely different app that has nothing in common. Completely different rendering engine, different UI, different UX, different visualization, different style. And it triggered this movement, this project called Organic Maps, because we were fans of Maps.me, and we wanted to preserve Maps.me in good shape. And we wanted to develop Maps.me. So 2.5 years ago, we started a fork. You know what happened in open source? This is the beauty of open source. You can go and fork. If you don't like how project is going, if you don't like execution of the project, you can go and fork. You can create a fork. So, of course, you need to think about legal aspects, so about license, about trademarks. So we don't use any trademarks from big technical. We change names and all copyrighted stuff. So we created a fork. And actually, this fork was created by myself and two other guys who are initial founders of the initial Maps with Me project 10 years ago. So we independently, in different parts of the world, started this fork in December 2020. And we merged two forks together to get Organic Maps project. So Organic Maps is community driven. So it's developed by community. We don't have any corporation behind the project. So this is all tickets, all pull requests you see on GitHub. Most of them created by people from community from different countries. Maps.me continue to develop. So we still have application called Maps.me. They improve application, but I would say they mostly focus on their business, their cryptocurrency business. And I wish them all the best. We try to improve open source. We care about open source. This is why we are talking here about flows, about open source. And we changed the structure of the project. And instead of developing project behind closed doors, we organized community work. So people started to contribute very actively. We set up proper governance to the project. We define rules, define code style, other things, and made project more contributor friendly. And we have what we have currently. We have a lot of pull requests. We have a lot of issues. And to clarify, we don't have any, investment, any investors, any big tech corporation behind us. This is all community driven. So people all around the world contribute to the project now. And this is the beauty of open source.
I'm looking at your contributors
ahead,
file. It's very long. I'm looking at the contributors file and the list of names, and it's just, there are a lot of people behind this project. It's impressive.
Yeah, so short story, we have 2.5 years of Organic Maps history, but long story, we have 10 years of, Maps.me plus Organic Maps project. So it wasn't created, in one day. This is a really long story. A lot of people contributed, and if you check last 2 or 3 years, we got completely new set of contributors. This is more open project now. You can contribute, and you don't need to sign any contributor license agreement now. No paperwork required. No lawyer required. You can just go to GitHub, press a button, and contribute. The only one thing we require is so-called certification. So in your comment message, you need to certify that this contribution was made on your own, not on behalf of your employer or not on behalf of some big company. So you made this contribution. You are a real person. We can identify. So you have GitHub profile, maybe a LinkedIn profile, and basically that's it. So anyone can contribute. And the source code is not owned by any company. The source code is owned by contributors now. So even if I decide to change license, it's not possible to do technically, because I need to go to every contributor and ask permission, which is not doable. It's not possible to find agreement in 100 people. It's not doable.
So what is the license? I'm looking around for it here. Is it GPL or MIT or BSD or one of those? I'm just curious.
Yeah, Apache license.
It's Apache license.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Apache license. Yeah.
I'm glad you said you mentioned developer experience and governance and stuff. I think it's important to mention that a healthy community of contributors doesn't just magically happen. There are things that you have to actually work you have to put into that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a hard work. This is not like you sit and do nothing and get contributions. People create a pull request and you need to work with your contributor. Yeah. You need to help, you need to assist, you need to drive things into the right direction. So this is a lot of work, and we work with our community very actively. And we also work with users. What we do, I think we do well. We communicate with our users, end users. So we have a lot of people who install the application. I don't even have the exact number because we don't have any telemetry or any trackers. I can only estimate based on data from Play Store or App Store, right, because we still track the installations. But anyway, we have hundreds of thousands of users, and they write emails to us. We write bug reports, we ask questions, and we work with our users. So we reply to every email. So our SLA for user response, we usually reply, in a couple of hours. So you write email, okay, my routing doesn't work. I try to make route from this place to that place. Nothing works. So we reply, we try to solve problems. We try to explain to people that data is not ours. Data is from OpenStreetMap. Actually, this is one of the biggest challenges because if you don't know about OpenStreetMap, you download app, you don't see your house on the map, you remove app, 1 star in Google Play or App Store, bad review, and you're done. You forgot about it. So we work with community. We explain, okay, if you don't see your house, you can add your house. You can go to OpenStreetMap. You can contribute. You can draw roads. You can add markets, gas stations, and things like that. So this is one source of feedback. And another source is users on GitHub. We have some chats like IRC, metric chats. So we listen our users, we listen to our contributors. We try to maintain healthy ecosystem, healthy environment, be friendly to our contributors. And I think it's important because otherwise, if you just publish your source code, you will not get 5,000 stars in 2 years. You will not get thousands of issues. You need to work with your community every day.
Yeah, I think that's a really good reminder.
Yeah, I want to get to, boy, we have a bunch of questions backed up here already. And but I want to let everybody know first that about Club TWiT. Club TWiT is a really cool thing that we do here at the TWiT Network. Joining Club TWiT is a great way to support it. As a member, you get access to ad-free versions of all the shows on TWiT, as well as other great benefits. Like there's TWiT Plus, which is a feed that includes footage and discussions that didn't make the final show edit, as well as bonus shows you started, such as Hands on Mac, Hands on Windows, Ask Me Anythings, Fireside Chats with some of your favorite TWiT guests and co-hosts. As FLOSS Weekly listeners, you may be interested in checking out another Club TWiT exclusive show, the Untitled Linux Show, hosted by Jonathan Bennett, who's one of our co-hosts here and does a terrific job. It's a really great show. So sign up to Club TWiT for just $7 a month. Head over to twit.tv/clubtwit and join today. And we thank you for your support. So, Katherine, we've been talking in the back about privacy, and I know you want to run with that one. So,
well, and we talked about it, and with regard to, not lacking telemetry about, users and not tracking users. And I'm curious about the privacy angle in a lot of ways. I'm wondering also, how much of your contribution could you attribute to people being privacy enthusiasts? That's among the questions. But I'm just kind of generally I'm wondering, I mean, is that the first priority? Was that why you created it, or is it? But how important is the privacy angle to you as a creator of this project?
Okay, so we already discussed offline part of the application, and privacy actually connected to this topic because if you don't have ads, you don't have tracking, you don't collect personal data, you don't need to send any data to any server. You don't need to download any data. So with offline and privacy, we have a really good match. So why do other applications drain the battery? Because they download ads from the internet. They track you. They need to send data about yourself to some servers. It also drains the battery. And from privacy perspective, for organic maps, it works offline. It does not track you. It does not show ads. It does not drain battery. It's open source, by the way, so you can check it. So privacy is important because our Google Maps is the most well-known application in this area. It contains a lot of features, probably good data, especially in the United States and North America. In Asia, it's not such good, but anyway. But you don't have a choice. If you use Google Maps, you is the product. Google will sell you as the product.
Yeah.
To do data mining, collect your location. So you visit some place. You probably had such experience. You visit some place in Google Navigator, and 2 days later you see some advertisements.
You get ads, Google. For that place. Yep. Yeah,
because we match all data we have about you. So for organic maps, we are not in this business, not in the business of showing advertisements. So we don't need to do it.
Yeah. There was a story that I wanted to mention in this context, and I sent, Ant the link, so maybe you can pull it up. But a few years ago, it's not just Google Maps, right? A few years ago, there was a running app called Strava for runners to track their runs and their paths and distance and all that stuff.
Exposed military.
Yeah, it was not a malicious thing. It was they thought it was cool to share heat maps of all the data they'd collected because it was interesting. Like look at this really popular trail around Central Park in New York or whatever it was. But inadvertently, because I guess they weren't thinking about the unforeseen consequences of that, it exposed a lot of secret data that various governments around the world might not want released, like the location of their military bases and all of this stuff. So, I thought it was interesting because, again, we think of Google and we think of all the big issues that come up, like geofence warrants or ad trackers or all of those things. But it's also there are these other sort of like accidental oops situations that are for smaller players, right? Less big names like Google.
Yeah, I think with privacy focus, this is our value proposition. This is what we changed in our fork when we started organic maps, and this is why we call organic maps organic, because it doesn't have any bad things. You don't have ads, you don't have tracking, and this is privacy focused application. And our initial idea was that offline and privacy match together. It's really good match because you don't need to download data. And this is how we got this early adopters audience of people, because people got tired of tracking data collection from big tech. So we don't send data. You can easily check it. So you can install any application on your phone or your router to check it. We don't send data. If you don't have data, you don't have.
Yeah, then you can't even accidentally, right? If you don't collect it, you can't accidentally expose it. It's safer that way.
And more important, we don't know places you visit. So you can make routes, you can use navigation. We don't know what places you visit. We don't track you.
I love it. I like that.
Maybe people can use for bad things, but we don't know it. I only know about good things because people provide some feedback in our support email. We share really good stories, how we use offline maps, how offline maps help people. And one quick story real quick about earthquake in Turkey. You probably remember in February, it was a devastating earthquake.
Yeah, terrible.
Syria-Turkey border, like 50,000 people died because of earthquake. What OpenStreetMap community and humanitarian OpenStreetMap team did? They started mapping the region because that area wasn't mapped properly. And if you have some crisis in the area, you usually don't have good internet connectivity because mobile data is overloaded. Maybe it doesn't work at all because infrastructure is broken, no electricity, generators already went out of fuel. But offline maps works very well. You can download in advance, right? If you download it, you can go to affected area and you have the map. And this is important when you try to rescue people. You want to know where your houses stayed, what roads do you have. You need to understand the area. And HOT team, humanitarian OpenStreetMap team, they reacted really quickly and they started to map affected areas. So it took a couple of days to get first iteration of this work done. And people actually used organic maps, and not only organic maps, other OpenStreetMap-based applications in that area, which was affected by earthquake, and it helped people to rescue people from ruins.
I just noticed that the OpenStreetMap community has 10.4 million people in it.
Yeah, impressive.
One way or another. It's very impressive. It's, and ham radio is still a big thing. We've done a number of shows about that, but the way volunteers show up with that technology and also with OpenStreetMap is pretty important. There's this is interesting to me. One of the ways that I'm interested in maps. I fly a lot in commercial airplanes, and I always have window seats, and I always shoot pictures out the window. And I've been told, I don't know if it's true or not, but I have more photos of geography shot from above in Wikipedia than anybody, and I didn't put any of it there. And I just shoot these things. I put them up online. I license them to require attribution only, and that's just so I know they get used. But I would love them to be contributed to maps in some way. In other words, I'm wondering if we can somehow open source the contribution of aerial photographs to maps of some kind. It occurs to me that nobody's shooting straight down from above. You're always shooting at an angle. It's probably hard to get the geometries right. But I'd love to see that happen, even if it's you're going to rural Utah and to canyons and things where there's not only no cell coverage, but you can use organic maps. But you get, well, here's some photos that are of these places shot from above, right? Is that plausible? Is that something that might be interesting? I'm just curious. This is one of the ways that I could contribute if there was a possibility.
Yeah, absolutely, it's possible. And OpenStreetMap has a sub-project to improve quality of map data by using photography, aerial photography from planes you mentioned. So this project exists. You can contribute contribute your photos, and people try to join photos together, try to fix geometry, and try to use this information to improve mapping. So satellite images, this is one source of information. Your photos from plane, this is another source of information. You can improve detailization of the map by using photos from the plane. This already exists. I can share the link.
I just noticed that, and I'm putting in our own private chat, there is a vertical aerial photographs in openstreetmap.org. There's in their wiki, there is something about that. So that's good. And I'll have to read through that. I haven't looked at that in years. An irrelevant but interesting story is that when I started doing this, I had a little GPS there was a Bluetooth one, had a little battery, a little charge it up. And I jammed it in the window of the airplane behind the shade so they wouldn't see it. And it was connected by Bluetooth to I don't know, some kind of offline map on a tablet. And because it only understood roads, it showed me going down little roads at 500 miles an hour because it thought I was on the ground. It was kind of wild watching this map kind of jerk itself around. So
I use GPS. Yeah. I use GPS in planes. So on Android phones, it usually works. If you sit near a window, you just need to wait some time. You need to wait maybe 10 minutes to get satellites signal acquired, but it usually works in planes. On iPhone, I don't know why. It probably. I saw one time.
I gotta say, it's not good.
On Android, it usually works. So you can open any map application, organic maps, or any other application, and you can see where you are. So you can track the flight.
I've noticed with, I don't know why, on an iPad it would work better than an iPhone, and I didn't think an iPad would have a better GPS in it. But I carry a Garmin GPS with me pretty much everywhere, and really in the last 15 years or so, that those have become really sensitive. So often you don't even need to be next to the window to get to be able to see, 6 or 8 satellites, enough so they can, triangulate or quadrangulate or quintangulate, whatever it is, your location. But I hold my iPhone up to the window and it gets nothing, even with apps that can show you the satellites, or close to nothing. It just isn't very good. And I'm wondering why they don't make them any better.
I can tell you a secret. So if you use your device very often, your device, Garmin or Android phone, it has satellite database up to date. Because, satellites are moving in different directions.
Right.
And when you connect to the internet, if you do it once per day, even once per week, you get the latest information about GPS satellites. And if you have this database up to date, you can acquire GPS signal in a couple of minutes. If you don't have this database up to date, it can take a couple of hours. So GPS is fully passive. So if you go to open air without any roof and wait, 40 minutes, 1 hour, you will get your GPS signal sooner or later. But if you update this database periodically, it will take a couple of minutes.
So
get good signal.
That's interesting, because I noticed with the Garmin, like sometimes that I have to restart it in a plane, that usually takes about 5 minutes before it gets all the satellites. And it does seem to know something about the vectors of the different satellites. This one, satellite 14 is going northeast and satellite 56 is going southeast. And it's very interesting to know that your location is actually being calculated by your device, is not by the satellites at all. The satellites are just beacons, so it knows where the beacons are and figures it out on your phone, or on whatever your handheld device is. And I'm thinking that there ought to be, it all ought to be improving a lot. So I'm wondering where, because we've got just a few minutes left here, where you have so many relationships with people. Where do you see this going in the next year, 2 years, whatever?
So we are ramping up. We participate in Google Summer of Code second year in a row. So we got 4 contributors, 4 students to work on the project. So it sounds crazy, right? So you work on a privacy-focused application, but you get support from Google, actually. Why not? So because this is open source, and we are fully eligible to participate in the program. So talking about general directions, we have a lot of things to do. Like currently, this is offline maps, and to get offline maps, we download OpenStreetMap data and we process OpenStreetMap data. So we pack OpenStreetMap data in special way to work fast on your devices, and it all takes time. So currently we do updates every 2 weeks, sometimes every 3 weeks. And one of the features we are working on, weekly updates, maybe daily updates. Maybe we can get this level, not now, sometime later. Because OpenStreetMap database, it's really complex structure. If you want to be power efficient, you need to do some preparation, some processing of data. We are working on navigation side, improving navigation for cycling, hiking. We are working on different layers for hiking. Like you can see different view of the map, different objects depending on your map style. We are working on improving OpenStreetMap editor because organic maps has very basic OpenStreetMap editor. So you can add some objects, but it's not possible to add a road, for example. So we can improve editor to get more contributions from the people. People ask us about offline search, improve offline search, especially search by address. In North America, we don't do a good job because different style of addresses from Europe and Asia. So we are working on improvement our algorithm. So it's like a Google, you type something in your search box, and we need to recognize what is it. Is it a city name or a street name or name of some object like market or gas station, whatever. So this is a big job. Do all things Google does online, but on your device. Talking about open source projects. So we are talking about open source here, right? So talking about open source project, we are trying to get more contributors. This is not necessarily code contributions. So if you can write Android code or iOS code or C++, please contribute. But we also have other areas where people can contribute. For example, translations. We support almost 40 languages in the application. And this is a challenge. 40 languages, this is a total challenge because, it's different structure, different languages. Bug testing, just sending reports helps the project. So if you see some problems, please press a button. We especially made this button visible on the map. So you press the button and send bug report. Map styling and map data, you can contribute to OpenStreetMap. Draw your neighborhood, add objects, and it will help the project. So we have thousands of issues on GitHub. We are working on fixing things our users ask us. We improving this client. That's it basically. Modern map applications have a lot of features. So we started from tourist audience mostly, some weekend trips, but we are moving more to general purpose application. For general purpose application, you need a lot of things. For example, public transport, people ask for public transport every day. Satellite images.
Sorry, all of this reminds me that, okay, so you're not ad supported, right? And you're working to get all this great functionality and become general purpose. How many full-time contributors do you have, and how are you funding all of this?
And we need to be brief.
I think we're running out of time.
We need to be brief because we're pretty much out of time. So quickly.
Yeah, we have couple people contributed almost full time. Plus, we have this year we have 4 students from Google Summer of Code. Other than that, people contribute in their spare time, so on weekend, after work.
And how are you? So do you raise funds? I noticed.
No, we don't raise funds because if we raise funds, we will need to go with commercial story, with advertisements. Forget about privacy and things like that. So maybe we can get some grants, but going into startup style story, you will need to make profit, And to make profit, advertisement is an obvious solution, and we don't want to repeat the story again.
Okay, so if you donate, it's on a small scale. People who donate, it's a small scale, just to sort of tip developers. Then sort of like the
people donate. So donate currently is the primary source of.
Okay.
revenue. And
But it's
if
a
people
small
satisfied, they donate well. If people not satisfied, they don't donate. It's
Got
not. So our goal is to make our users happy.
That's fantastic. So, final two questions because we're out of time that we ask everybody. What are your favorite text editor and scripting language?
My text editor, I use VI very often, almost for 15 years. For more complex development, when I need complex code completion, I use VS Code currently because it's state of the art and really fast. So if I need to change something quickly, especially low level C or C++, I use VI. But for complex, especially Java development, I use VS Code. What was the second question? What was the second question?
Oh, is the text
Scripting language.
Scripting language.
I mostly use Python. I can do shell scripting as well. So I think Python for simple task.
Yeah. That's the winning bell. So Roman, thank you so much for this. This has been a really good show. Very curious to know where it goes in the next few years. It's one of the shows that's actually close to my heart because I'm a total map freak. I used to, everywhere I went, my cars and my backpacks or whatever it was stuffed with paper maps for most of my life. And now I just have a GPS and a phone or two, defending.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really great. So we'll be staying on top of it and watching where you go with this thing.
Thank you for spreading the word about open source. This is how open source community can grow and how we can help each other. And in my opinion, maybe the last statement, in my opinion, if you are a software developer, contributing to open source is probably best investment of your time. If you are working in engineering, software engineering.
No disagreement here.
Yeah,
That's what we're all about. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So Katherine, that was good.
Yeah, that was great. This is an interesting project. I wasn't expecting it to be so big, I guess. I don't know what I expected going in.
Yeah. So anyway, so let's get into plugs and then whatever else after that. So what do you want to plug here quickly?
Katherine? Yeah, I have plugs. Let's see. I guess it's been a while. I'm still doing that podcast. I still work for Intel, which is cool. Go Intel. I am still doing a podcast called Open at Intel, and there's a whole new shiny page devoted to it where you can see all the episodes. So that's cool. And having a good time talking about security a lot. I'd love people to listen and give feedback over there. And I think that's about it. Yeah. And
we have our own podcast, the two of us.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes.
Called Reality 2.0 at reality2cast.com. Yeah. So next week, Ahmed Sobe is going to be on talking about open source challenges in developing countries. So that's a big topic. And that is coming up next week. And until then, I'm Doc Searls, and we'll see you then.
Listeners of this program get an ad-free version if they're members of Club TWiT. $7 a month gives you ad-free versions of all of our shows, plus membership in the Club TWiT Discord, a great clubhouse for TWiT listeners. And finally, the TWiT Plus feed with shows like Stacy's Book Club, The Untitled Linux Show, The Giz Fizz, and more. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit. And thanks for your support.